Storm Shadow cruise missile. Ukraine got a long, punishing arm. The war between Ukraine and Russia is becoming more and more technological. Slowly, with some creaking, the West begins to transfer the most modern weapons to the Ukrainian army. Patriot and Irish-T air defense and missile defense systems, GLSDB high-precision gliding bombs, and HIMARS multiple rocket launchers are already at war. And here's another piece of news from this area. Ukraine has received at its disposal high-precision airborne long-range cruise missiles, Storm Shadow, manufactured in the UK. See what these missiles are and how they can affect this Ukrainian-Russian military conflict in our next video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel about modern weapons. There will be many more interesting videos on this topic. British Defence Minister Ben Wallace officially confirmed that London had handed over to Kyiv the low-intensity long-range Storm Shadow cruise missiles. The use of Storm Shadow missiles will allow Ukraine to repel Russian forces from Ukraine's sovereign territory, Wallace said. He put Storm Shadow on par with other similar high-precision and long-range weapons the West has previously handed over, in particular the HARPOON anti-ship missiles. It follows from the words of the British Minister of Defense that the range of the missiles transferred to Ukraine is 250 to 300 kilometers. This corresponds to the characteristics of the export version Storm Shadow, while the maximum range of these missiles can reach 560 kilometers. The Storm Shadow is really a serious weapon system. The key parameter of missiles is their intercept range. 250 kilometers will be enough to hit the Russian Black Sea Fleet based in Sevastopol, for example, and to hit the weapons in fuel depots deep in the Russian rear as well as airfields. Missiles of this class are very advanced technologically. Only a handful of countries in the world have them. The Storm Shadow missile was developed in 1994 through a joint effort of two aerospace equipment and weapons system companies, Matra of France and British Aerospace. Today, the missile is manufactured by Matra BAE Dynamics Alenia, part of the British BAE Systems. The company, engaged exclusively in the production of missile weapons, is based in France and has divisions in the UK, Germany, and Italy. These long-range French-British-made cruise missiles are in service in the UK, France, Italy, and several other countries. The British version is called Storm Shadow, and the French version is called Scalp EG, but they're manufactured by the same company and operate on the same principle, just made for different aircraft. The maximum flight speed of the missile is 1,000 kilometers per hour. The approximate cost per shot is about $2 million. The weight of the Storm Shadow cruise missile is 1,300 kilograms, 450 of which is a two-level warhead developed by BROACH technology. First, the shaped charge burns through an obstacle, armor, concrete, earth, and the main part of the warhead penetrates the target and detonates, causing maximum damage. This warhead is effective against command posts, ships, and submarines in locations, bunkers, bridges, and other heavily fortified structures. Storm Shadow uses three types of navigation systems. The first system is navigation with the help of a GPS signal, which, however, can be jammed by REB means. In circumstances where both sides use such means, this type of navigation can be ineffective. For example, there have been frequent reports that GPS-guided HIMARS missiles and GLSDB bombs have become less effective because of Russian jamming of the GPS signal. The second guidance system is inertial guidance. As opposed to the GPS guidance system, this system does not need an external signal source and therefore is more difficult to jam by the REB means. But this system has a disadvantage: an accumulating error. The third guidance system, terrain navigation, is meant to compensate for this inaccuracy. The principle of work of this system consists of the fact that the route of their missile flight is created in advance on the basis of the maps, which are based on satellite pictures. Thanks to the built-in altimeter, the missile continuously monitors the distance to land or water. The missile's onboard computer constantly compares the terrain along the course of the missile's movement with the data laid on the maps. The Storm Shadow can thus fly at an altitude of 30 to 40 meters along a prearranged route, maintaining a preset altitude, avoiding obstacles and avoiding areas where enemy air defenses are masked. Immediately before hitting the target, the missile takes off upwards and then dives towards the target. The climb is necessary for accurate data calculation and target detection. During the descent, the missile drops a cone-shaped nose to allow the infrared thermal imaging camera to scan the area to strike. Data from the guidance camera and automatic target recognition, as well as information from other missile systems, are compared with the pre-launch Storm Shadow data and a map based on satellite imagery. The missile then hits the target. To some extent, the Storm Shadow missile can be compared to some Russian counterparts, such as the KALIBR missile. These missiles have similar warhead power and subsonic flight speed. However, there is a significant difference. Storm Shadow is an air-launched missile. In other words, it's designed by default to be launched from NATO air carriers such as British Tornado aircraft, French Mirages, and Rafale, or European Eurofighter Typhoons. The Ukrainian Air Force does not have these machines at its disposal, but Ukraine has the Su-27 heavy fighter and the Su-24 fighter bomber, which have the carrying capacity to become carriers for these weapons. And exactly as carriers. That is, the task of the aircraft is to carry the missile to the desired launch site and perform the launch. Further, the rest will be done by the rocket itself. Ukraine already has the experience of integration of the Western aircraft missiles with the Soviet airplanes. For example, the American AGM-88 HARM anti-radar missile was successfully adapted for launch from a MiG-29 fighter. And judging by the latest information, Ukraine has successfully mastered this weapon as well. On May 12th, the strike was launched against Russian military facilities that were located in Luhansk. Until that day, this city had been considered a deep rear, and Russian troops felt safe there. The attack was carried out by 2 Storm Shadow missiles and an American AGM-160 MALD missile, which can operate in 3 modes: imitate a cruise missile, imitate a tactical fighter, and cover with an electronic field those missiles that fly with it. Well, we can state that the first strike with British missiles was successful for Ukraine. But this by no means means that now the Ukrainian army will be snapping Russian military targets as easy as shelling peas. The Russians have a very powerful echelon air defense system, the effectiveness of which they have repeatedly demonstrated. The only good thing about the Storm Shadow is that it's not too stealthy thanks to its metal hull, and it only flies at low altitudes. Therefore, the ground radar stations in this case are powerless. What's needed is airborne radar. The Russians have it, airborne radar A-50, an analog of American Boeing E-3 SENTRY AWACS. This aircraft detects a cruise missile, transmits its coordinates to the air defense system, and then the Russian Buk anti-aircraft missile system, infamous for destroying the Malaysian Boeing 777 in Donbass on July 17, 2014, kicks in, or the Panzer C-1 missile and cannon system. American ATACMS missiles for HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems would have been much more effective in this regard. Although this missile does not circle terrain like Storm Shadow, it has a speed of 1.5 kilometers per second. That's 4.4 Mach, almost hypersonic speed. It's much harder to hit such an object. Moreover, such a missile cost about $1 million, i.e., 2 times cheaper than Storm Shadow. The Ukrainian army already has GMLRS missiles with a range of 85 kilometers for HIMARS. Recently, SDB missiles were delivered for those HIMARS with a range of up to 140 kilometers. The last step is left. We are sure that shortly we will make a video in which we talk about the use of ATACMS missiles against Russian troops in Ukraine, and now we'll be watching the use of Storm Shadow by the Ukrainian army. In any case, some of these missiles will definitely reach their targets. And what do you think about Britain's transfer of Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine? Was it the right step? Write about it in your comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. It'll be the best reward for us. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss new, interesting videos about modern weapons.